belongs to different sensibility in different cultures, in different geographical areas, so cannot be one concept, should be applied differently. But this created a lot of trouble because everything is possible. Every demolition, every operation becomes possible within a certain context. So after all this, they said, recalling the Venice Charter, the Dresden Declaration, the Nara document, the Krakow Charter, and other recommendations addressing the theory and practice of reconstructions, taking into consideration the significant growth on a global scale of reconstructions of monuments and ensembles, including World Heritage Sites, noting the increasing disregard of existing theoretical principles for the justification of reconstruction and the new tendency towards significant commercialization of reconstruction activities, encourages ICOMOS, as a matter of urgency, to launch a debate on this new and growing phenomena of reconstruction. So we are in the middle of a great debate. How to accept the Nara document and at the same time create some protocols and rules for how to carry on this reconstruction. And here we come to another different word which is more close to the sensibility of architects more than conservatorists: presentation and the interpretative structure. So here we come back to Xi'an, and we see a very huge archaeological site at the national level, which is the Daming Palace, which goes back to the Tang Dynasty, which conservation has been done in recent years. As you see, this was the situation before the park. The site was built. There were a lot of run-down settlements by people that were migrants after a flow that came to Xi'an from other provinces, and the site was completely cleared to make the heritage park. Also, this is an issue. What layer of the story is to conserve? Again, the issue of values that is dominating Chinese culture. The heritage site was cleared. The authenticity of the site, what is called the integrity, it's just some ground traces, the foundations of the palaces, the sign of the lake, but nothing in elevation. So this park, heritage park, became like an open laboratory where many different techniques were used to experiment how to protect these large heritage parks. Here you see the situation now with different protection ways. We will just examine just very, very few because it's huge, it's enormous. And you see here a range of possibility that goes from the open-air conservation in situ, a glass covering, a grass mark above the ground, a stylobite mark, a reconstruction of foundation, as far as the whole site museum. So different techniques were applied according to the quality of the rest of the ruins to protect the heritage sites. A discussion was made about the Danfen Gate, which is the entrance to the main entrance, the main gate, the south gate, which had a huge pile of remains with no form, with no shape, but a huge readable, and so a site museum was needed. And there were different possibilities. One was to make a reconstruction as, we can say, an image reconstruction, using all the character of the style but not material, like a model a little bit bigger. Or another possibility was to make a more imaginary architecture in which the style would be evoked in a more elusive way. The first way prevailed. This is from the master Madame Zhang, a very important architect who helped Xi'an to preserve the heritage site, but at the same time she's the leader of the Neo-Tang resurrection. So she designed in style, as if she was in Tang style. the result. She is the one who made, for instance, a Tang paradise with Tang architecture we were built just recently. So again, this idea of nostalgia. This is not an historical place according to the physical remains, but it's an historical place according to the memory, the souvenir, the relation with the text, with the literature. Of course, this is brand new architecture, and they are designed just according to her knowledge of the Tang style, not because there are any documents about that. While in the Tang Damin, instead of this kind of reconstruction, for instance, Han Tuan Hall, different possibilities were chosen from the reconstruction, for instance, of the base due to the archaeological evidence. And here is the situation. So just the base, and the palace is just made of the rest of the columns where we know they used to be there without trying to reconstruct the whole. Or keeping the ruin itself, or using like some traces, some models with some base which protect the ruin under the ground, because these ruins are fragile, they are made of rammed earth, so they cannot be exposed directly, but using the grass and some base to show the topology, or at least the remains. And in Han Chang'an, for instance, the same by Professor Liu Keqian, that was in our PhD to make a lesson last month, were used to read very fragile traces, try to sign on ground those geometries without trying to reinterpret, to invent what is not inventable. We cannot recreate the past. The past is lost. We don't know exactly how it was. So just better to this huge dimension, because these sites are huge. They're a bit like the center of Milan. So this way, or to suggest, integrate history, memory, and design, suggesting, for instance, the outer wall, not like a fake wall, but some reminiscence of the material, of the rammed earth structure, but with new material like structure, removable structure, that at the same time can solve the problem of where to put all the facilities in such a big, huge park for tourists, like toilets, restaurants, and whatever. So to make the heritage site more clear as possible. Different experiments were done to recreate. Here you see the Dampfen gate, the one that was rebuilt in style, while the wall was rebuilt by Liu Keqian in another way, using, for instance, some concrete panels which nonetheless try to make readable the structure of earth and wall, and some shapes which really represent the figures of the typical Chinese wall without any stylistic details, any stylistic approach. As far as some parts in which this imaginary of history try also to evoke, in absence of the physical artifacts, the role of design in evocating history, and try to involve emotionally Chinese people to learn about the history. This is completely a new way. And it's interesting because in China, they can do what we dream to do sometimes here. So the possibility of integrating contemporary architecture, true contemporary architecture, into historical sites, with no UNESCO, ICOMOS, and Italia Nostra telling that we have to congeal, we have to make a museum, nothing can be touched, the historical city is something concluded. No, the past is open, the past is evolving, and contemporary is just another layer of the past. And contemporary architecture has the same right to be presented there in the historical process. The problem, of course, is a matter of sensibility, respect, relationship, dialogue with history, and conservation of authenticity. Do not exchange the old for the new. This is another way, for instance, to show where the gates were, without rebuilding the old structure, but just show what the archaeological remains let us know, no more than we know, in a more abstract way. And this is another project. This is the West Tank Market. Here you see again the two approaches, the master Jian Qinghu and Professor Liu Chen together. The same compound, the same operation. This is a private operation. They were making a business and a commercial center, and while doing it, they discovered the Tang market, one of the two markets. The Tang Western market was the one open toward the Silk Road, so very important relic. It was a market where the Silk Road begins. So at this point, for the first time in China, the private investors had to take care of heritage, had to pay for a site museum, not to demolish the ruins that were found underground. And there were two logic. The logic of the architect, which was appointed with Madame Zhang, that went on building in the Tang style at this point, since it was the Tang market. They called her to make a Tang compound, a Tang operation, and Professor Liu Chen, who tried to instead work on the same issues, but using contemporary language. Because they discovered this was the real Tang market. As you see again, the 9 square, the magic square of Chinese, also in the market. So everything is like a box without a box without a box with the same roofs. And it was discovered just a small corner, this corner. And the compound is a very small part of the market, but the city was already built, so everything was destroyed. It lies underground. But excavating this part, they found the ruins. So at this point, they could not ignore. And the project of Liu Chen tried to make the protection of the ruin within a site museum, which could somehow allude to the same structure of the market in another scale, of course, because the market is huge. So he based his structure, making readable this crossroad where the ruins were found, which at the same time they became the public place of the museum, and very similar also to the structure of the European market. If we think about this crossroad, then we will see a roof with glass, and these systems of roofs which highlight all these corners which were within the Tang market structure. So like a small model of the complexity, the life, the street, the dimension of the market. And here is the inside, where the ruins were kept visible or under a glass floor, which stay in the central nave, which is the public, let's say, space, which can be used also for the district, where we can have conferences, which at the same time with the roof recover the idea of the typical idea of the 19th century market. And all the complexity of this structure of subunit of the market are instead in this square, which frames this crossroad of the Tang market. And also you see the slope of the roofs remembers the landscape of the Chinese destroyed city, trying to make a balance with Madame Zhang historical neo-Tang design. Here you can see the slope, the rising and fall of the movement, and some style architecture all around. Then the urban design is always terrific, so it's almost impossible to take a good picture of the museum. Another site is Hanyanli, another archaeological park, another site museum, and this is very special because this is a tomb. It's one of the tomb of the emperors, and it's a pyramid, and some foundings. The tomb was not open. They don't open the tomb because they wait for the future. But around it was excavated, and they found all the tombs because the emperor, when he died, he brought around him everything he liked in life, like the Egyptian, for instance, but not the slaves, the friends, the bureaucrats. So around the tomb, you can find all the people that served have the right to be buried near the emperor. So all around the mound, and also the empress was here. So you see the first sketches in which the pyramid is at the center, and to